I don't know how you get any better. I mean, after all those laps, what is a 400-mile race, and they come down and they're basically 4 wide.
I remember the finish at this track.
Oh, yeah.
They touch,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
Ricky Craven and Kurt Busch. This is as excited as I got for a finish of a race since then.
Probably over my head. They try and focus on just being the best piece of the puzzle for our group. And
you know, you never know when you're just going to have an off weekend.
I've kind of gotten the ability to have the platform that I want, and it is my platform, and I can speak to whatever I feel like talking about.
We were in the mix, and it makes it a lot more fun when you're in the mix than you are just, you know, struggling and trying to figure out what direction to go.
Yeah, it's tough, and sorry for being bouncy, the roads here.
It's like if you have, you know, the all-you-can-eat buffet every single day of the week, people are going to get tired of it, right? So if it's a special thing, I think people get more excited for it.
Hi, Bo.
Raise your hand up so she can see it. There you go.
Truthfully, even as a company, I think it was, you know, very head-scratching why at the beginning all 4 of us just went instantly straight to the back. We just really struggled.
Welcome on to the Backstretch. I am News 5's Heather Williams, and it is Darlington race weekend, one of my favorite race weekends of all time because it is well documented that I am a history nerd, love history, and so I love seeing all the throwback paint schemes and all the history attached to that. I know that there's a lot of talk in the industry that Throwback Weekend may have run its course. Not in my opinion. We can keep this going forever. I love it. I love feeling the history of racing, and I cannot wait to see the throwbacks every year. So pretty pumped about the race this week in Darlington. Can't wait to see the paint schemes on paper come to life when they hit the track. Also been a crazy weekend as far as silly season. I mean, we had a movement this week with Michael McDowell moving to Spire for next season. It's pretty early to start talking about throwbacks or about silly season rather, but here we are. And from what I understand, the first of many cogs to fall as drivers start to move around and owners start to move around, the charter starts to become a thing. So that's interesting. So we're going to talk about both those things with our crew chief, Chris Carrier. Also, our guest this week is Noah Gragson. He is by far the hottest driver in the Ford camp right now. Probably still not the most, like the best and the most consistent. That's probably still Ryan Blaney. But as far as the way he's run recently, it'd be hard to compare anyone to the way Noah's been running. So we'll talk to him about his inaugural season at Stewart Haas Racing so far and how it's gone for him. So let's get fired up. Joining us now is our crew chief, Chris Carrier, who's also the crew chief for the number 75 Food Country Truck in the Craftsman Truck Series. But Chris, we got to talk about this outfit. It's Darlington Throwback Weekend. Tell me about your throwback.
Well, this is a shirt that my wife dug out from a box of others, and some we couldn't find just yet. But this is from 2011, I think June. I worked for Kevin Harvick Incorporated that year on trucks and Xfinity cars, and crew chiefed Kevin that night at Texas to a win in the truck series, and Hunt Brothers Pizza was our sponsor, the number 33 truck. Pretty special. That's the only time I've won a race at Texas Speedway. He was pretty good there. We had a good time. It was a good night. So dug that out. I said, okay, I think I'm just going to wear that tomorrow for Throwback Weekend at Darlington. There'll be some really cool paint schemes and color schemes, you know, this weekend. One we've talked about with Brownie King being honored, his paint scheme in the truck race with Christian Eckes in the 19 truck. Just really neat deal. So more coming.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see what your wife digs out of the
Bless her
closet.
heart.
I will not be wearing any of my throwback clothing because women's clothing don't age quite as well as race fire suits do. All right.
I think you've aged very well.
Well, thank you.
Anyway.
The closest finish in NASCAR history last week at Kansas. Who did you think won in real time?
What did you think when you saw the photo, and how good is the racing at Kansas right now?
You know, Kansas Speedway, which is, I know, your favorite, your hometown, I don't know how you get any better. I mean, after all those laps, what is a 400-mile race, and they come down and they're basically 4 wide trying to win the race, you know, and more behind them, not far behind. I just don't know how you ask for any better. You know, we expected good racing here. We expected a good finish, but I don't know how anybody could call this. But man, photo finish, one 1,000th, not 1 second, not 1/10, not 1/100th, but 1/1,000th. I mean, you're talking about like that, the margin of victory, and then 2 more, not just more inches more behind. Incredible. And I think it's, you know, obviously it's a good thing for our sport. It's a good thing for, you know, the Cup Division series right now, and their plight with the next gen car, and how can you ask for any better? I mean, very cool. And you know, all those guys that were there, you know, Larson, Boucher, the other two, you know, it's hard to say, man, I didn't win for any of those 4 guys, especially Chris Buescher, you know, and you know, the way the angles looked and everything, all the pictures, been a lot of rhetoric about that, a lot of talk about that, and you know, the start-finish line not being exactly straight and everything. But you know, to me, that just adds to the story, and that's things that this is something that people are going to talk about for a long time.
Yeah, it's an instant classic.
Time, you know, and that's what we want.
I remember the finish at this track. They touch, you know, Ricky Craven and Kurt Busch. This is as excited as I got for a finish of a race since then. It was unbelievable. All right, so from unbelievable to, oh boy, the struggles continue for Ford. We are now a third of the way through the season, and they have not won yet. You weren't hitting the panic button earlier in the year for the Blue Ovals. Are you hitting it now?
I think you've got the target on the panic button. You know where it's at, and your hand's out there close to it to say, man, what are we going to do? I mean, Heather, to me right now, you know, Chris Buescher and Ryan Blaney are really kind of their only hopes for a win. They go to Darlington this week, and you got drivers in Ford cars that are very capable. I mean, the Penske drivers, in the Stewart-Haas cars, those drivers, Brad Keselowski and Chris Buescher, they're definitely capable. They just don't seem to have everything together. None of those teams have everything together where they can put together consistently top-running cars every week. You know, and when you're struggling trying to find, okay, what's wrong, it's hard to, you know, it's hard to pinpoint, okay, we're going to do this, have your whole game plan to go win a Cup race, especially a place like Darlington. It's tough. Now, maybe they get all their eggs in a basket this week, and maybe this is the time that they come away, because they've got drivers in that camp. They got plenty of good drivers that could win a race at Darlington. Some of them already have, so don't count them out. But, you know, right now it's very, to me, it's very confusing. I don't know. I've talked to a couple of guys in a couple of those camps, and they don't really, you know, I think they're confused really about, okay, what is the issue here? What all things are we behind? It's not just one thing. It's got to be several things.
Michael McDowell is moving to Spire Motorsports in the off-season, the first of many expected busy silly season moves. With the charter agreement still up in the air, could there be some major shakeup in ownership of the sport as well as drivers? Well,
I think so. When there's charters that are, you know, going to go on the quote auction block, and you've got people that are interested in it, you know, it just seems, rumors have about Stewart-Haas maybe selling a couple of their charters, which to me is not good news to hear from that end of it. You know, they've had 4 teams, and they're probably going to cut down to maybe 2. I don't really know. It sounds like it, but then you've got you know, some other people wanting to grow in this sport, Spire being one of them. Okay, it looks like it may be some may be getting less and some may be getting more, but yes, to answer your question, there could be some blockbuster news on all this, you know, and Michael McDowell being one pretty big piece of the puzzle, because he's proven that he can run competitively at a lot of racetracks, maybe all the racetracks, and if he's in the right equipment, he can be one of those guys that's fighting for a win every week. And I think he would be, in my opinion, I think he would be a good person to be at Spire because he's going to bring experience. He's going to bring a little bit of calm. He's going to bring a little bit of, you know, okay, here's what we need to be doing. Maybe this is going down the wrong direction, but I think this, and this is good. It'd be good for stability. And I think a growing team like that, that's what they need, because they got some youth in that camp, and they're starting to get the Cup teams going. And it's not easy. It's not easy. So we'll see what happens.
NASCAR heads to the Lady in Black this weekend. How do drivers tame Darlington?
Well, I know a lot of drivers just love going there because it's a challenge. They know it's one of the biggest challenges in this business. Okay, and they know all the history that's at this place in the past. You know, I know when I go there, it's just, to me, it's like walking into a history book of NASCAR auto racing. The people that have run there, the races that you've seen there, the how tough it is. It's a very narrow racetrack. You actually run really fast through the corners for how narrow it is and how little bit of banking you've got. There's very, very, very small room of small margin of error. Very, very, very little room for making a mistake, or you're going to be in a wall, and you got to do it for a long time there. So, you know, being able to race the racetrack and still race your competition is hard. It takes a guy that's got mental toughness and physically, psychologically, he's got to be in really good shape, which that's more than just muscles and endurance and breathing, but that all goes into it because you got to be able to think clearly and effectively for that 3.5 hours that you're going to be in that race car. And it's going to, even though it's an I-race, it's going to be hot. And it's going to be hard because the tires are going to wear out real quick. You're going to want to run as fast as you did the lap before. You're not going to be able to. You're going to have to gauge that. You're going to have to give good communication to your crew chief and say, look, man, I need to be a little bit tighter over here. I need to turn better here. I need this. I need that. It's a tough thing, but you'll always, whoever wins this race is going to come out with a big smile because they know they've done something that not everybody can do.
You, Noah, have been one of the hardest charging Fords in the garage recently. What's been the key to your success over the last few weeks?
I don't know if we can narrow it down to really one thing. I think Drew Blickensturfer, the crew chief of our team, he's been doing a great job with just leading us as a group, and I'm really fitting in and getting into the groove as a driver, and all the guys are working really hard together. So it's been a lot of fun. There's been a lot of hard work, but we've been enjoying the process and learning each and every week and seeing some, you know, positives. Qualifying third last weekend at Kansas, had, you know, a top 5 qualifying effort in Dover. We were hoping to just qualify in the top 15 at Dover and ended up in the top 5. So we've been putting a lot of work in on Saturdays and going from practice to qualifying and setting ourselves up to be in a better position to start the race and run up front. I struggled the first handful of races qualifying up front, and we'll work all race and we'd get decent finishes, but you're working all race where we're missing out on stage points and whatnot. But other than that, it's been a lot of fun preparing with these group of guys, going to the racetrack, going to battle every weekend. There's no place I'd rather be.
So, I mean, Ford as a group has not had a great year. You guys have not won yet. Is there anything specific as the group that you guys are working on to try to, I know there's been better runs, it seems like lately as a group, like, you know, top 5, top 10s, maybe to get over the hump to get Ford in victory lane?
Yeah, I don't know. That's probably over my head. I just they try and focus on just being the best piece of the puzzle for our group and the 10 team, and being a good teammate to Chase and Josh, Ryan, and just being able to go out there and drive the car as fast as I can, really. So I don't know what's holding us back, or if those guys are just super, super good right now. I feel like the Dark Horse Mustang really fits my driving style. I don't know if it's a whole lot different than the Mustang last year, but the cars have been fast for us, and we keep building on it. So, I mean, as a Ford group, have come really close to winning races, or we've run good, had good qualifying efforts, just haven't closed it out at the end of the day. But we're continuing to work hard each and every day to get to victory lane.
This week at Darlington, what's the challenge? I mean, that seems like there's, the nicknames themselves are intimidating. What's the challenge as a driver at Darlington?
Yeah, I love Darlington. It's a really fun racetrack, and there's a lot of different options as far as you can run, the bottom, the middle, the top, really on both sides. And the racetrack, I feel like, has been widening out on the entry to turn one. It used to be pretty single file there for a while, and you'd go low on entering turn one. You'd sweep up in the center of the corner and then turn down the hill and come back down and clip the dotted line on exit, where now you can kind of run 2 or 3 grooves through there. So there's definitely a lot of opportunity. The racetrack's really worn out. It's a lot of fun, and then you run right up against the outside wall through turns 3 and 4. So they're long races up there. It takes a lot of focus to be able to run up against the wall, and it's definitely rewarding when you can get it right. And there's a lot of speed up there, especially when the tires wear out. So it's a fun racetrack. It's one of my favorites. I've had it circled on the calendar for a long time, really since the start of the year on getting to this track. I feel like these 3 racetracks, we got Kansas, Darlington, the Coke 600. I feel like those are 3 really good racetracks for us, and we're excited for it.
There's been a lot of talk, you mentioned the last 3 races, on the intermediate tracks and 1.5 mile type tracks, and what good racing it's produced with this car. As a driver, can you feel the difference in this car on those 1.5 miles or 2 mile-ish type tracks as opposed to the other ones in the way they drive and the way they perform?
Yeah, there's definitely differences, and they do work pretty good on the 1.5 miles. So it's been fun. I feel like that's been kind of our bread and butter this year, is a 1.5 miles. We haven't been to too many of them. I think we've only been to 3: Vegas, Texas, Kansas. But it seems like it suits our program and our setups pretty well. So the short tracks, I've always been a short track guy growing up, and felt like I was decent on the short tracks. Started my career in the Truck Series, Xfinity Series, but for some reason it seems like I'm probably more excelling on the bigger tracks than I am the short tracks, where I'm used to.
Try to keep it kind of quick this week again with my final thought. But my final thought, it's about the end of Race Hub. You may have seen the announcement from Fox Sports this week that Race Hub was going away. As a fan, it makes me really sad. As somebody who works in the industry, I hate to see people I consider my friends, lose their jobs. And I think it's not good for the sport. I know that a lot of teams at NASCAR and stuff are taking on, more podcasts, more interactive, more live things. That's great for those of us that are hardcore fans. I listen and watch NASCAR stuff, Sirius XM and the Pod Junior download and all that kind of stuff. But for your average fan, he might just be flipping around. It might be, what is this? The loss of these mainstream platforms for our sport is never good. And so I just hate to see that happening in the sport. And hopefully something will show up on one of these channels to take its place. We lost NASCAR America a couple years ago when NBCSN went away. And it's just not a good pattern for the sport. But fingers crossed that we'll get something. And again, just thinking about all the people that are out of their job or part of their jobs because of this, because it's tough to see it happen. And got you in my thoughts. That's this week's Backstretch. We'll see you next week.